This presentation is brought to you by Arizona State University's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability and a generous investment by Julianne Wrigley.
I'm also the director of the Sustainability Certificate Program for my law school, and I'm also on the Oregon Sustainability Board. And I've done a substantial amount of my research and scholarship in the field of sustainability. And what I have experienced and seen is a color line between sustainability and environmental justice. And it's not green. This is unsustainable. Specifically, when sustainability is being raised or discussed and funds for sustainability are created and made available, environmental justice isn't in the room. Mostly white people are. And when environmental justice is being discussed, there's no money in the room. A lot of people of color. This is not sustainable. Environmental justice provides the equity practice and the equity doctrine and the equity competency that are necessary for sustainable decisions. And I maintain whenever sustainability is on the table, environmental justice needs to be in the room or they are likely to be on the menu. My experience with doing this work of sustainability and environmental justice is to emphasize the importance of culture. Every community has a culture. Indeed, every building has a culture. And until we learn to embrace those cultures, we can't implement sustainability in a fully engaged way. Culture helps us to clarify our relationships to place, and it helps us to configure our right relationships between our economy, our communities, and our ecosystems. Every environmental challenge is local in nature, and every community has a culture. The capacity for building community engagement must recognize the likelihood that communities will have distinctive views and demand incorporation of those distinctive elements into any plan for sustainability. And this may require working through face-to-face social networking. It may require visiting churches and barbershops and nail salons and not relying on e-technology in order to establish the relationships that are necessary for building resilient communities and capacity for public participation. That kind of work requires multicultural competence, and it requires environmental justice competence. As I mentioned, Gro Harlem Brundtland gives us a very traditional and foundational definition of sustainability. She says that sustainable development means meeting our needs without diminishing the ability of future generations to meet theirs. My question to you tonight is whether you think it is possible to achieve fairness or justice to future generations without engaging the disparities of the past and the needs of contemporary communities. My answer is we cannot do that, and I want to share why. But my conviction about this is shared widely, and I just want to quote briefly from the German statement of sustainability that accompanies its work plan for German sustainability. The Germans say that sustainability for them means not living at the expense of people in other regions of the earth or at the expense of future generations. Too often, our decisions about development have discounted the value of future lives and the value of contemporary lives without political power. What I mean by discounting the value of these lives is simple. It means that people at the table take all the benefits. people in the room take all the benefits, and all of the burdens and costs will fall on either future generations who are not present or politically unpowerful people who are likewise not present. That's unsustainable decision making. And public policy decisions of the past have often been predicated on exactly that kind of situation. And it was rationalized by a kind of utilitarian philosophy that said, well, they may not be in the room, but we're doing the greatest good for the greatest number right now, so that ought to be all right. That way of thinking elevated the value of contemporary powerful people because they were making the decisions and other people weren't there. And the greatest good for the greatest number was often not reflective of the greatest number. It was reflective of what a very small minority thought were good for the greatest number. Do you see the difference?
This presentation is brought to you by Arizona State University's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability for educational and non-commercial use only.